We've been working on something pretty special here, trying to get this 1954 International pickup back on the road after more than 30 years. We bought a first-gen Dodge. We tore her all down. We rebuilt the chassis. And now we're building the motor to power this old girl. And in this video, we're taking care of the injection pump. We have some expensive pistons to install, and then we're wrapping up some loose ends. This is Stuart's garage. This is our injection pump. It's a VE injection pump. P pumps are on later models, so the second gens. But this VE is very special because it is completely unmolested. Now, how do I know that this is unmolested? Right here is your fuel screw, and this is a cover that goes over it. I'm not sure if I can pop it off, but if that's been tampered with, the cover is going to be missing. No one's going to replace that. Also, right here, we still have this protective cover. And up here on our air fuel control, we still have this in there. So this is our recipe. Try to make a little bit more power on this old girl. We got an old smoky fuel pin. I've never used this fuel pin. I don't know how it acts, but I'm a sucker for a cool name, so that's why I bought it. It definitely got me on the marketing. We have a 3200 spring and a 3800 spring. Not sure which one I'm going to use yet. And this is our reseal kit. A lot of the stuff I do here, I have misplaced confidence, but it's only partially misplaced. Taking care of this old girl, my confidence is completely misplaced because I have no idea what I'm doing, but we're going to rip this girl apart anyway. Hopefully I don't mess anything up. These things with the red caps, these are our injectors. They are upgraded. These are 5x12 injectors. Stock injectors are 4x9, I believe. The 5 means that there's 5 little holes here. Can't get it too close to the camera else it won't focus. And then 12 is just the size of each hole. So these are quite a bit bigger than the stock ones, but for what we're building here, this should be plenty. There's a line on top of this right here, and that aligns with the lines on the side. So before you take this off, you just need to remember where it's at, that way that you can clock it in the right spot again. If you guys watch a lot, you know I am a huge fan of impact screwdrivers. I always give it a shot first by hand. Be gentle though. Just like that. If you don't have one of these, you're doing it wrong, man. Carburetors, stuff like this. So what I'm taking off right now is called the AFC. It's the air fuel control. It's essentially a diaphragm that helps limit how much fuel goes to your injectors. The reasoning for that is when you're really low boost, you don't want a ton of fuel because you don't have the air to match the fuel. And this is what helps kind of limit that. So right here goes a reference line, and that hooks up to your manifold. And then that pressure goes into here and pushes down on the AFC. So you'll see the diaphragm in just a second here. There we go. Here's that diaphragm I was talking about. So the pressure pushes this down. See how much travel it has? Underneath this cap allows you to set the preload on this. And then there's another adjustment underneath this. This one here, same thing. You turn it in and it's going to give you more fuel earlier in the boost curve. So a lot of guys will just crank this all the way down and send it. We're going to wait. I'm not sure how this motor is going to behave with all the parts I have. So I'm not going to mess with this. We're going to drive it down the road first. And I'm going to actually tune this truck. I'm not just going to blow smoke out the tailpipe. 4 bolts that hold this on I just got off. Kind of got to be careful because your governor spring's right in here. That's what's holding us up. Inside of this pump is actually pretty discolored from what I've seen before. Not sure why that is, probably just old diesel. This is our governor spring. Sometimes you can read a number on it. This one you can't. Reason I dug in here, one, for our governor spring, and two, there's a big seal right here. It's completely flat, so that baby's probably going to start leaking soon, so I'm glad we're taking care of it. This one's not flat. It sticks up above the edge. That's what makes it seal. This one's going to be good. I'm going to leave it off for right now. I want to wire wheel this top part so that we can paint it in just a second. Throttle shaft comes out the bottom. There's a bushing right here, and there's also an O-ring on this. This is a common leak point. A lot of times the bushing gets worn out. I didn't buy the bushing. Hopefully it doesn't leak. Taking this top off ain't too hard though. So if I had to come back and do it later, not a huge deal. There's a big O-ring on this side that leaks sometimes. So that O-ring I was talking about is on this side. It's right in here. This one's flat. If it wasn't leaking when we started up, it probably started leaking in a couple months. So, oh yeah, this gasket's in rough shape. It's a good thing I popped this off. Now, just to intimidate you guys a little bit, show you what the inside of this looks like. That's probably not important, right? There's a tiny little metal piece down in here too. And you probably won't even be able to see if you just glance at it, but yeah, this is a pump. Was a tiny bit of crud in the bottom of that. Oh, well, I just disintegrated this thing a little bit more, so you can actually peek underneath it now. So if your piece falls out like mine did, don't freak out. It's not the end of the world, right? Just make sure these pieces are back in their place. They're like little rollers. And then try to make sure that that thing gets back in the side that it was on. So this one was facing towards the engine. This side is towards the engine. If you guys have a factory one, a lot of the times the backside isn't painted, so that's how you know. So normally people will use Vaseline for this next part. I just have some Aquifer that I had in my pocket, so I'm going to use that. Aquifer is like 50% petroleum jelly, which is all Vaseline is. You don't really want to use grease unless it will dissolve really easily in fuel and when it gets hot. So some greases are heat resistant, so you might end up clogging up an injector. Probably isn't going to happen, but you don't want it to happen, right? So that's why I'm using Vaseline or Aquifer. And then on the bottom of here, dry everything off so the Vaseline will actually stay, because this little shim, everyone puts it in like a bench vise to do this. You're being a baby. It's really not that bad to rebuild these. There's a notch on the bottom here, lines up with that notch, and then there's a notch on this spinning disc right here. It's on the opposite side, right there. That lines up with that circle. So first, I'll line up my bottom one. Then you kind of got to finesse it to get the top and the bottom at the same time. Now spring there. Spring here. So now, just flip it upside down. Since it kind of slammed, I like to just peek that everything's still in place. Everything is in fact still in place. We have one last big gasket that normally leaks, and that's this housing right back here. It's just an O-ring. Oh no, that's no good. Now this thing, with the line running to it, it advances the timing on cold starts, something like that. It's an electric solenoid. Don't exactly know how it works. I'm going to take it apart real fast and look to see if there's any gaskets. You don't see guys talk about this very much, so I really don't know too much about it. Wish I could be an expert on that. Sorry guys. I got an O-ring here, O-ring there. We got an O-ring right here. I wish I could act like I knew something about what I'm taking apart right now, but realistically, there's so many different pieces on this pump. There's too much to learn about. Kind of maneuver that in first. Try to keep these shims in place. Now I think that's about all we have to do. So I'm going to start reassembling. Best course of action is to normally assemble the throttle how it is sitting here, right? You got one O-ring on here that we are yet to change. So this piece on first. Then you have a spring that you have to clock. This is your return spring for the throttle. Pretty important that you don't forget it. Once again, use some grease or Vaseline to hold the gasket in place while you flip it upside down. This is a 3200 RPM spring. This is what we're going to run for the time being. It's not that hard to swap out for a bigger one, so we're going to keep the 3800 on standby. I prefer head studs before I go crazy with this build. I just realized I messed up. These bolts that hold on the top, can't have this on before, because one of them goes right there and then the other one's on the back side. It's kind of difficult, so if you're doing this, don't follow what I just did. This is a factory fuel pin. Just gotta take this off. So this is the new fuel pin. You guys can see it has a different layout than the previous pin. So that adjusts our fueling curve. The profile of the pin goes towards the front of the pump. It's all assembled now. Just want to get all that diesel fuel off of it so that I can paint it. Paint job for the injection pump came out awesome. Yeah, just wanted it black. We got it black. I know it probably doesn't look like it, but the injection pump is actually painted with matte black, and these lines are gloss black. A little bit more glossy, but this one kind of fades over time. I'll show you guys. So this engine block was pretty glossy, and obviously now it's not. It's just been sitting in the barn. It hasn't had any heat on it or anything. Flat black with gloss black and polished aluminum accents. It's just gonna look really good. This box holds possibly the most expensive car part I've ever bought. Molly, you guys probably know what's coming with this. Ooh. Check that out. That is sweet. Once I get the motor tore down again, I'll show you guys side by side the difference in these pistons and what they look like. But yeah, these are $1,000 pistons. So after we have this girl all assembled, I have to take her all back apart to get those new pistons in. Obviously, if we ran it how it is right now, the pistons would kiss the valves. Don't want that at all. So just something we gotta do. I am curious how fast I can disassemble this engine. So I'm gonna time it, and I'll let you guys know when I get there. I went ahead and gapped the rings on these new pistons. So did that off camera, since last video we did the old pistons on camera. Just a little side-by-side comparison here so that you guys know these pistons are completely different. It's a shallow bowl, also a lot wider. Then you torque it. Both of them to 26 foot-pounds. Then you crank it up to 51 foot-pounds. And then lastly, 76. This is our Cummins 20 thousandths oversized head gasket. So let's throw her on there. Next up, got our push rods. You want to make sure that you can get them seated, because right now this one probably looks like it's seated because you can't go any farther, but there, now it's equal with that one. Gotta make sure you get them in the pocket. You can kind of feel it because there's resistance when you pull up, because it's like suction cupped if you have assembly lube on it. So with the head being on this old girl, we got to get the valves in shape. So real fast, we're going to set the lash on them. On this one, your intake has to be 10 thousandths of an inch, and your exhaust 20 thousandths of an inch. Make sure it's loose, no pressure on these. This is our exhaust, so 20 thousandths for the exhaust. Definitely needs to be tightened up. So you want it where it barely slides in there. Same thing with the intake, 10 thousandths. This one's definitely gonna have to be tightened up. A little bit more, a little bit less. Just find that sweet spot where it just barely fits, right about there. To continue to break up that black of the engine block, we got a polished aluminum oil cooler. And this is the bypass valve right here on the back. This piece, to take it out, a lot of guys, you can screw a bolt into it and then just pull it out. Mine is pretty stuck and I can't get a bolt to thread and I can't get a tap to thread to kind of grab it. So I'm gonna weld a nut to it and then use a slide hammer to get it out. Got it out. It's a very gentle fit. New one is just a press fit. You literally put it in there, tap it with a hammer. Really just it's barely a press fit. Should probably put it in a vise, but the bypass valve installed. We can put this up to our block. Kind of awkward because there's two metal pieces and two gaskets that you got to get lined up. This is one of the parts in the build where it starts to feel like you're getting close. So our injection pump's all in, but now we have to get it timed. So you guys can see this has already been marked O and O between the two O's. And then up here, O lines up with E. They both got that little green marker on them. Now there is a keyway on here that lines up on this, so we got to get this turned in the right direction. Yeah, I'm not really sure why it's GDEC. If it was alphabetical order, then we could just assume that, but VE intercooled motors are normally set on the E, and that's what this one was set on when we took it apart. So for this injection pump, you have a lock washer, and then a nut. You're supposed to replace lock washers because after you use them once, they basically are useless for what they're supposed to be used for. I never bought another one. My kit didn't come with one. So we're just gonna use some retaining compound on this bad boy. Healthy amount, probably too much. This is our front cover. And before we do anything, we gotta drive out this front seal. It goes out that way. So This is a depth gauge. Throw that on the bottom. That kind of acts as your support. Now, it stopped recording in the middle of that, but it was pretty ugly, so I don't think you guys wanted to watch that anyway. But she's in, plastic rings back in. Biggest thing is just making sure that the lip is not messed up on the edge. If you do the same thing as me. I'm cheap. I didn't want to buy the $50 tool to install this. And I didn't really want to buy the thing to install this either. This is a wear ring on my crank right here on the front. Doesn't look like it, but there is a lip that you can feel with your fingernail. There's also a ton of crud on the front of this motor. It definitely had a front main seal leak. So this basically gives you a new crank surface once you press it on. So we're gonna have to make some kind of tool for that as well. My mind, don't listen to anything I said in the last 2 minutes of this video or the upcoming minute. It's probably a bad idea. This motor's been wide open for quite a while. Just try to get most of this gunk out. Got to remember that this is also going on your oil pan, the brake clean. So before you add your oil, use a lot of it and drain it. Last thing is our vacuum pump and power steering. Pretty soon we're not going to need either of these. Explain why in a later video, but we're just gonna throw it in. That way we don't have an open hole in our motor. Ignore the rust on this gear. It's flash rust. I left it outside for a day. Got our front main seal on there, so you just slip that over the crank. You make sure both the surfaces are clean. You just kind of normally you just do that. This one's fighting me a little bit. There we go. Now there's some perfectly good reasons not to pre-fill your filter, like you just don't want to. Takes too much time, normally makes a mess. A lot of good reasons, you know. I used to be an avid, why are you filling that up? You know, it's gonna fill up eventually anyway. Until I saw a video on YouTube. It's from a guy, he has like a PhD in lubrication or something like that. And he said they kept getting trace amounts of metal in their oil after they did an engine build, and they couldn't figure out why. And then they finally pre-filled the oil filter, and those trace amounts of metal finally went away. Obviously, microscopic trace amounts. It's not going to noticeably affect your engine, but over time, over oil changes, eventually this will affect it. The rationale behind filling it up is that the 2-3 seconds, however long it takes for your oil pump to pump enough oil to fill this bad boy up, the rest of your motor has no oil pressure. So you're basically extending the no oil pressure period on startup. Yeah, not a huge deal. If you don't want to do it, I'm not your dad. This will be the easiest oil filter install of your entire time owning a first gen when you have it out of the cab. If you've tried to do it without taking your air box stuff out, you know what I'm talking about. Hand tight. Got the front cover on this old girl. We used make a gasket. We got to let it cure for an hour before I torque it down. This engine's coming together. We got a couple more things to dress up. We got to do our fuel line, injectors, our fuel filter. We're deleting the fuel heater. I'm waiting for a new stud for that. And then I got to sandblast and paint our exhaust manifold. This build is coming together. The next video, we will be cranking this girl up for the first time. I appreciate you guys being patient with me. This build's been a lot of fun. Thanks for watching.